Hey guys, this is Tim from The Guiding Leash, and today we're going to be going over the sit command. So first I want to address some of the commonly asked questions I get a whole lot before we really get into the nitty-gritty about how we go about introducing this behavior to new dogs. So one of the questions I get asked by clients a lot is, Tim, well my dog already knows sit, why do I need to teach him sit this way? Or what makes this way a little bit better than any other way? And one of the things that you'll see in a little bit when I bring the dog out and I show you how we go through the motions is just like in all the other obedience commands that I teach, we always use an underlying element of leash pressure. So it's that constant light guiding leash pressure that lets the dog know I still need to make a change. And then as soon as they've completed the correct behavior, the appropriate behavior, all of that leash pressure goes away, and that provides a lot of clarity to the dog. So they feel pressure, 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 and they realize my motions, my actions are in control of the pressure. I know how to turn it off. So before I even introduce any type of command or word for the behavior, I want to get them proficient at turning off the leash pressure. And when this is where people go, well, my dog already knows sit. I can lift my hand up, I can wave a little bit of food over his nose, he brings his bottom right down. Why do I need to use the leash at all if he already knows how to do it without the leash? And the reason why I want to use the leash is so the dog knows that it's obedience. It's not a trick. It's not suggestion. Obedience is non-negotiable. So the leash allows me to put him into that sit position the first time, every time. It's not where I'm saying sit, 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 come on buddy, sit. And I'm waving the food closer, I'm trying to get his attention a little bit more, and he's looking at that squirrel across the street, or that car going by, or the scooter, or the skateboard, or the bicycle. I want to have a system in place where he knows the first time, every time, and the only thing that turns that leash pressure off is him bringing his butt to the ground and following through with that command. So that's why I always use the leash, because I want to be able to make sure he's following through and doing the right thing when it matters and when it doesn't matter. When the stakes are low and they're not as distracted, of course the food is going to be enough. But ultimately we'll find ourselves in a scenario where the food doesn't mean more than whatever's out there. And that's why I want to fall back on that leash. I don't want to be repeating myself over and over and over again, because then what happens is the dog learns, oh well, dad wasn't serious the first 2 times, or oh well, he's only serious when he's speaking this loud, I don't have to listen when he's talking in his normal voice. I don't want us to get in the habit of repeating our commands when we're trying to get the dogs to do obedience. So instead we have the leash. The leash can be the thing that speaks at whatever volume is meaningful, at whatever level is enough for the dog to make a change, and the leash is the thing that's repeating itself, not us. So this way, we build a dog that listens to the command every time, the first time, and it sort of allows us to make the mistakes with the leash instead. So I'll go out and I'll grab a dog, I'll show you how we go through that steps, how we go about setting up and teaching the behavior first, and then how we introduce the word afterwards. And the reason why I don't introduce the word right out of the gate is because there's a lot going on when you're teaching a dog a new behavior. Over-communicating with our dogs can really confuse them as far as giving them what exactly it is we want them to learn, what words we want them to listen to, and what words we want them to have as far as meaningful communication goes. It's one of those instances where less is more, so if I can get the dog proficient at the behavior first, and then when the dog is doing very well, when I know they're going to succeed, that's when I'll start to introduce the word. So this is Cassandra, and she's going to help us go through teaching the sit today. And one of the first things I always like to review, I always like to talk about, is as far as equipment goes. So you can see she's got her collar all the way up, right under the chin, nice and snug, right behind the ears, right under the jawline. And what this does, this gives us the maximum amount of control to help guide her in the right spot. If she had a harness where it was clipped on her back or on her chest, it would be a lot harder for me to help guide her into the position we want, and it'd be easier for her to get distracted, or when we're practicing outside or on walks, for instance, for her to kind of ignore us, blow us off, because when you have control over the head, you have control over the rest of the body. So, as you can see, anytime I'm teaching any command, I start in a nice controlled, low distraction environment. This way, it's easier for them to focus on the new information I'm providing them. So what I'll typically do is I'll start with a little bit of food in my right hand. I know, it's the good stuff. And you can see I've already got her attention right out of the gate. And what I'll do is I'll hold the food in my hand with the leash just past her nose, and then my other hand can help her with the butt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up just lightly, and then push down on her butt, And as soon as her butt hits the ground, you see all leash pressure goes away, and that food is immediately delivered. I can give her a little bit of petting, and then I'll tell her, free, you're free. And free is going to be our release word that lets her know you're done doing whatever you want. If you want to keep hanging out in a sit, and you do because you want them more foods. Yes, you do. But if you want to mill around and hang out, that's fine. You can think of the word free as clocking out. You're free to go, do whatever you want to do. And by using this, I don't have to teach a stay or a wait command with my obedience. It's implied in the command, because ultimately what I want is a dog that knows sit means sit. Not for a second, not for 3 seconds, not when I've said it 4 times, not unless your best friend is walking down the road across the street and you want to go over and say hi. I want sit to just mean sit. So I don't need to use a stay or a wait, because I've built into my sit the free, which says, hey, you're allowed to leave now. So the fact that we let them know, hey, I'll let you know when to clock out, lets them know, well, right now, I've just got to hang out and worry about sitting, and that's all I have to worry about. That's all I have to focus on until I've been told either what to do next or that we're done with it. It's so good, girl. Boop. So when we're working on this exercise, if you find they're hanging out and they're waiting for more food, because maybe they do know this, they do know how to sit for food, but we obviously need to get them up to get into that next rep. I'm not going to try to pull her with pressure, because remember, leash pressure means you need to make a change, and she doesn't have to do anything when she's in a fray. So what I could do is I could get a little bubbly with her, a little excited, but usually just walking forward a little bit, creating some motion with me will create a little bit of motion with her. And again, I'll have the leash just out past her nose with a little bit of food in my hand, and then one hand ready to push down in her butt. That's a good girl. So I'll pull up slightly, down on the bottom. Immediately that leash goes slack, and then my hand kind of swings down like a bucket for her to eat the food out. So as soon as her butt hits the ground, the leash pressure immediately goes away, and the food is immediately delivered. You can give her a little bit of petting to let her know she's doing good if you want, and then, free! I know, that's so good. You like all the food, don't you? Yes, you do. You're free. So then again, it's up. And now you can see she's even starting to beat me as far as pressing my hand down on the bottom, and that's because dogs are really good at pattern recognition. So what you develop as you practice this over and over and over again is it's up on the leash, then down on the bottom, up on the leash, down on the bottom, and the dog's like, yeah, I know what's coming next. I really like the part where I get food and the leash pressure goes away. Dad, I'm not so big on you touching my butt though. I'm gonna bring my butt down faster than you can reach my butt. And when we've reached that stage where the dog is sitting without the assistance of the hand on the bottom and just that light guidance upward with the food in the hand, that's when I'll start to challenge them a little bit more. And that's when I'll start to take away the food until after they've done it. So I'll go, free. Just upward lightly, good girl. And then I'll deliver the food reward. So now she's working for her food, because ultimately that's what I want. Food to be the reward, not the bribery, not the incentive to do the behavior in the first place. So when we've reached that kind of proficiency with our dog, where it's just that light upward pressure and then the food is being delivered afterwards, that's when I would start to introduce the command to sit. That's so good. Yes, you're free. You're free. So I'll give you guys a little side profile to let you know what that looks like. I know it takes a big strength, girl. So in the beginning, I'm going to pull upward, and you see she's still beating me down on the bottom. That's fine. That's so good. Free. So we up lightly, and you can see it's just a minimal amount of leash pressure. We're not yanking her all over the place. We're not pulling very hard. It's that light little communication. Think about when you were in class when you were a kid and you were a little naughty, you weren't really paying attention. Your best friend was sitting next to you, you needed to get his attention. It's that little tug on his shirt. It's like, hey, hey. Instead of saying hey, hey over and over again, it's like, hey. And then you give him a little tug on his shirt to let him know that you're talking to him. It's the same thing with the dog. It's that little like tap, tap, that light constant leash pressure to help let them know, help them focus on what's important. Because the world can be very distracting for dogs, especially with how aroused they are, how strong their sense of smell is. When you're out and about, their world is so much larger. So you teach them this leash pressure to let them know the first time, every time, to get them really clear on what exactly it is we're trying to teach them. I like to think of the leash guidance as horse blinders for dogs, where it really helps them focus in on you, the command, and what matters. because this is ultimately the type of relationship where we build this across to all of our other obedience commands, and it really helps keep the dog safe in high distraction, high stake environments like out in public, crowded streets, when we're hiking. If I can't control her when it doesn't matter inside, how can I hope to compete with all the distractions of the outside world? Alright, so this is the guiding leash. That's my fun tip for the day. If you guys have any questions, troubleshooting issues, there are a whole bunch of other ways that we also teach sit. This is our primary method. It works with a lot of the dogs, but every dog is different. Dog training isn't a cookie cutter approach. So if you guys are struggling, if you guys need tips, if you guys are looking to improve anything a little bit further, feel free to go to the Contact Us tab on my website and go fill out a form, try to set up a consultation and evaluation, and let's see if we can't start guiding you onto a better tomorrow today.